This episode of the Havery Show is being brought to you by Heartland Tax and Accounting, 863-385-5020. The following program has been rated G and is suitable for all audiences. With us today on the Havery Show, we have lifelong Sebring, lifelong.
I've been here since I was 7. My mother was born here.
Okay. Well, decades-long Sebring resident, business owner, entrepreneur, community leader, wonderful person, longtime family friend, Ladonna Paedae Rodriguez.
Hello, my friend.
Hello, my friend.
You're too kind. And back at you.
Thank you very much. How are you?
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Tell me what's new.
Been retired for 2 years.
How's that suiting you?
I couldn't stay retired, so I have been drawing commissions for people and writing for the newspaper and Heartland Living magazine, and now I'm a realtor.
Realtor?
Yes.
Wow. That's just is that out of the blue?
Yeah, but my dad was at one time.
I did not know that.
Mm-hmm. From a long time ago with John Longfield Smith.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember Jay Stroll and Sherry Stroll and Miriam.
Yep.
Miriam's husband was John Longfield Smith before he passed away. He was on the Circle where Gracie McCoy's her office used to be there afterwards, I think it was, or before. But he was there for a while.
Yeah. My goodness. So how are you liking that?
I'm learning. Yeah. I'm definitely in a learning phase right now. So I'm enjoying it, and it's nice because I know our town so well.
Absolutely.
That everything's familiar. And
yes.
Yeah.
And I think you need to be a people person to have that kind of job, and you are definitely that.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
You mentioned your art. I'm blown away by your art. I've seen so many things on Facebook. For some reason, they've stopped being in my feed. They were there like on a regular basis, and I could always see what it was that you were working on. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how they do their algorithms or whatever, but for some reason, they haven't been popping up. And I wondered if you were still doing it or not. So you are.
Still doing it, but I've been a little bit spread apart between the writing and the studying for real estate. There's a lot to study.
Oh, I can't imagine.
But I just finished a commission for a local lady who lost her pet, and she loved him a lot. And then I'm working on 3 dogs for someone else, and then an orchid for the Orchid Society show this weekend.
Fantastic.
It'll be a raffle item. People can purchase a ticket, and I'm donating it, so everything will benefit the Orchid Society.
Tell me your process. How do you start? Okay, so someone wants you to do a pet. Mm-hmm. Do they give you a picture? What do they do?
Sometimes they give me several pictures.
Okay.
And the last one that I did that had 3 different dogs in it, I had to kind of compile them together. I draw, so it's color pencil drawing, and it's so time consuming. I did a hydrangea blossom for a lady, and there's multiple petals, multiple flowers.
Yeah.
One individual blossom took 2.5 hours. And there's probably 100 blossoms. But it's neat, and I enjoy the process. It's definitely slow. It's definitely time-consuming, but it takes your mind away from everything else.
Well, that's medicine then, isn't it?
Yes, therapy.
That's healing, therapy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
The realism of your art it's phenomenal.
Well, you're too kind, and of course I'm always hardest on myself, but I aim for realism, and I'm working on it. My friend Janet King that passed away last year, my dear friend, she really encouraged me to continue with my art after I retired, and she was, of course, a hugely successful watercolor artist. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of started it back up after I retired. I had drawn in high school with Mr. Smith as my teacher. And I had won the art festival for students. Mm-hmm. I took first place in that. Mm-hmm. So it was always in the back of my mind. I just never had time with my business.
So are you telling me that the gap was basically from high school and until just a few years ago that you really didn't do much with your art?
48 years.
48 years, and you picked up and started creating those types of works.
Yes.
And you realize that's ridiculous, right?
I did have a tutor in London, and I learned the color portion of drawing from her because I'd only ever worked in black and white. So I did learn the color portion from her and dove into it.
Okay, how long were your lessons, your coaching?
I probably was on with her, it was Zoom classes for about a year, and I was already doing commissions right away because I would post something and somebody say, I want a picture of my dog. So I started doing it right away.
I mean, you understand that that's unheard of. I mean, unless you have just been touched by God and you have been given a gift. And that's just the only way I can explain it.
Similarly to music, right?
Possibly.
Yeah.
In some cases, yes. In some cases, I think that I'm where I'm at because of I'm not taking anything away from God or whatever. But I worked fairly hard. But there's the fact that you could stay away from art for that many years and then get right back into it that quickly just shows what a wonderful gift that is.
Well, and I'm humble and thankful.
Yeah,
definitely.
As well you should be, because that is some kind of remarkable gift you have.
Thank you, my friend.
Now, if somebody is paying attention to this show, actually somebody paying attention, how would they get a hold of you to commission an artwork?
I have a Facebook page, and they can also call me. My cell phone number, 214-1055.
All right.
They can message my husband at the jewelry store, Sebring Jewelers. They can reach me.
All right. That will flash up on the screen when I do the editing. I'll make sure that goes up there.
All right.
You mentioned the jewelry store, which reminds me of Hobby Hill, of course.
Yes.
So when did you take over Hobby Hill?
The florist?
Yes. That was your parents' business.
Yes.
That was they're the founders.
No.
They're not the founders.
No, but initially it was Collier's Flowers.
Oh.
When it was at Southgate Shopping Center. And
Uh-huh.
Ava Leatherman, Ruth Whip, and Lillian Depp, who lived by Marlene and Hank Ewers off of Eastview, lived on a hill, and they wanted a hobby, so they bought the florist from Mrs. Collier, and they named it Hobby Hill. Yes, and then they moved to North Ridgewood Drive, where the vacant lot is now, next to where the Santa Rosa was.
Yes.
And my mother began making plaques for them, cast mold plaques that she would paint. She brought them down there and she consigned them, and they offered her a position, and that was in the early 70s, I want to say, maybe late 60s.
So late 60s, early 70s. Now, where Collier's was in Southgate, where was it located?
Where the old Sears was?
Yeah.
Yep. And
That was
right next to it, probably.
okay. Gotcha. So maybe like somewhere around Dr. Faust's building or something like that, right around
Or
in there.
by Crenshaw's.
Yes,
in that
Crenshaw's
little
and the
area.
Mushroom.
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
And then I began working there as a delivery girl.
Oh, really?
Yep. So we have been involved out of the 75 years that it is now. My family was involved for over 48 years.
Wow.
My mother probably 52 years, something like that.
And you and Hector still own the whole thing?
Yes, we own the building, and he runs our jewelry store, which is Sebring Jewelers,
Yes.
and it's right next to the florist. Yeah.
He does great work.
Thank you.
I mean, really remarkable, and
Thank you.
it's super high class, high level work that he does.
He's
Very
talented.
timely. He's good at what he does.
Thank
Oh
you.
man, and what a nice guy.
Thank you. He's patient, and
Yeah.
he's talented,
Oh, yeah.
and he's clever.
Yes.
Very, very smart man. I'm
Yes, he is.
blessed.
Yeah, for sure. This episode of the Havery Show is being brought to you by Heartland Tax and Accounting, 863-385-5020. Your mom and dad, wow, they were awesome people. Just remarkable.
I have to agree. Thank you.
Yeah. You guys, I remember you being on Eucalyptus. Mm-hmm. Was that your homestead when you came down? Is that where you moved into?
Well, Mama was born here in 1928 in DeSoto City in a house, and she attended first grade in one of the big schoolhouse here in DeSoto City.
Would it have been New Prospect? That would have been?
I think so.
Okay.
She went to school with Gene Whitaker from Lake Placid.
Yeah.
They were in the class together. Her grandfather and uncle were two of the firemen that went to Moore Haven during the 1928 hurricane.
Really?
And that was the year she was born. Her grandfather was gone while her mother was pregnant with my mom. So it was a lot of turmoil besides the hurricane. My mother was due to be born. Grandfather was gone. Her father was not here. So it was tumultuous. But at any rate, my mother moved over to Oak Avenue next to your house when she was very little in another 2-story house. They lived
Is that
there.
the one to the left of mine?
If you're looking out at the road, it'd be to the right.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. So they lived there for a while. My mother left Sebring for a while, met my father. She always wanted to move back here. So we did. My dad became a ranger at the Hammock.
Yes.
So we lived at the park for just a few months. And he was approached to help Ridge area. And so he started them with a plant program, their first plant program. And did really well, made a lot of great bonds. The students there loved him. He was patient, he was kind and generous with his time and his affection. If you knew Daddy, you adored him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he was special, and he did that for a while. My mother was at the florist, and then eventually my dad came to the florist to be with her. So we moved to Eucalyptus Street. And the neighbors were great. One little lady across the street taught my mom how to play the old upright piano. The Riles were on one side of us.
Yes.
Jimmy Ward's parents were on the other side. The
Myrtle and
Parkers-
Ralph.
Yes, and the Parkers were across the street who were related to the Skippers. So we had a great little neighborhood. And then down by the field, the baseball field, we all got together and ran through the Australian pines. Which those are painful.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Those were our playground. Me and David Tavernier, Clark Patterson, Craig, all those guys.
Yep.
Oh, we played Army. We played Cowboys and Indians and Cops and Robbers.
I know.
We had forts out in those things. I hated to see them go.
I did too. But you banged up a bunch of knees on them too.
Well, you sure did. Yeah, you sure did. That was part of the fun.
I know.
Oh, those Australian pines. Yeah, they were gorgeous. Yeah, back to your parents, though, in the house and everything. I didn't want to interrupt. Sorry.
No. So we lived there for quite a while. And my mother's dream was always to have a home on Lake Jackson. So a couple years before Daddy died, my brother and I and some friends actually physically built their home on Lake Jackson for them.
I remember that.
It took us 2 years. But they finally got to live there, before Daddy passed. Daddy served on the CRA, Community Redevelopment Agency, and so did I. When I served, we had the train station restored.
Yes.
And since then, of course, HGTV's come along. And, we're hoping to get a trolley downtown.
That is a great idea. I love that idea. And I know there's some local business owners that are right behind that idea, too.
Yeah. I've found a trolley.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah.
Yep. And
It's cute as it can be.
it looks like it had even a price drop recently.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be fun?
What I can see is when I used to, it's only been a few months, but when I would go to New York and sing for the summer, this past year they had a party boat, and it was a pontoon boat, but it had pedals. So you would get on there and drink and pedal, and you would pedal around. But the thing about it that was cool is the launching area was just full of banners of local businesses. And there's no reason why the launching area for the trolley couldn't also be full of downtown businesses and Sebring businesses in general. And the trolley itself could have a main sponsor with its name on a placard on the very top. So there's no reason why this entire project couldn't be underwritten by local businesses.
Exactly. I brought up the idea to them of getting advertising on there, and I think anybody would be on board, and we could have a map made that they could hand out showing where all the businesses are and all the attractions are.
That's right.
So we'll see.
I missed that meeting. I've been at almost every single meeting, but I've missed that one. So was the council receptive, do you think, to the idea?
To the most part, yes. They were concerned about the logistics, of course, insurance, training, storage, things like that.
Doable.
Yeah, I think it is doable. I mentioned it to my husband, and I had told the city that I do not want to own this or run it or anything. And my husband said, I think we should do this ourselves. I'm like, okay. So we're talking about doing it ourselves.
Well, that's fantastic.
What's
in the old gas station next to you?
Nothing.
Wouldn't that be a great launching spot?
It would.
There's room for a gift shop. There's room for a little coffee shop, cafe.
And that'd
It's
be
got all the pieces for a perfect launch. It's got the extra space to the right when you're looking at the building. It's got the loading area behind. That's
it could be the
perfect,
local
perfect
tourist
spot.
destination, like the tourist center.
Absolutely.
We used to have a tourist club.
Yes,
Remember
we did.
downtown?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, and it's high time we have another one of those.
Mm-hmm.
And your place could serve as multi-purpose use. That would be a great place to launch the first of several trolleys.
I know. I think a trolley would be just super. It really would.
Is it gonna have a blue streak blue motif?
Signage, maybe.
Okay, all right. Yeah,
The way it is now, it's just precious. It really is.
no, I loved it.
Very
too.
vintage looking. Yeah.
Yeah. This episode of the Havery Show is being brought to you by Heartland Tax and Accounting, 863-385-5020. Yeah. Well, my goodness, there's good things happening downtown. Yeah, me and a couple of friends were at Gavigan's today having some lunch. And just the hustle and the bustle and the number of people walking around. I was playing at the 301 on Friday. And there were people on the balcony at the at Gavigan's who could hear my music coming from 301, and people are just going back and forth. And then they're going to the Peru place, and they're going to Faded, and they're going they're making the rounds.
As it should be.
As it should be. 6 months, a year ago, when I would play at 301, come about 10:15, 10:30, it starts to fade, and by 11 o'clock, it's really dead. On Friday, about 10 o'clock, sure enough, it started to fade. And then about 20 after, it started picking back up again.
Really?
And I ended up playing a half-hour overtime because
Awesome.
it was going so strong.
We never had that before.
Oh,
ever.
shoot, no, not downtown. Are you
Not
kidding?
Since John Spiegel had his
Exactly.
City Lights, or where the comedy club was there
That's right.
at whatever that was called. But yeah, that's awesome,
It's
and
fantastic.
and it's great that your music is just resonating out in the circle.
Well, you know what? This is the other thing that is so cool. A lot of business owners would be intimidated by that, and they might say, well, I don't want the people next door getting free entertainment, so I'm going to close my doors. Not Don. Don's got the doors open. Awesome. He wants to encourage Gavigan's. They show each other's logos on each other's buildings.
Isn't that awesome?
For heaven's sake. Today at Gavigan's, there's the menu. It's got Gavigan's, it's got 301, it's got Peru Fresh, and it's got something else. They're all
supporting each
promoting
other. Yes. Community.
Who would have thought that you could do so well by encouraging each other and promoting each other?
Yep. Awesome.
Wow.
It says so much about how we're changing and evolving and working together.
Yes. I love it.
I do
and
too.
the Fan Fest yesterday, the number of kids running and jumping and playing on that wave sculpture. Just, my grandkids were on there playing with it. And my grandkids are 4 and 3, and there's 12-year-olds, and they're all playing together. Nobody's getting hurt. Nobody's pushing and shoving. Nobody's being mean. They're
Just having a great
just
time.
having a great time.
At a place where there was nothing to do before.
And it's wonderful.
Yeah.
And the number of people there, the families, all ages, all walks of life, it was wonderful.
And I think it's going to keep active like that. I do. I think that finally we have reasons to come downtown at night.
Yes.
And the shops during the day are trying really hard to, stay visible, and their product mix is great.
Yep.
But you need that nighttime too, the nighttime entertainment, and that's awesome. And the restaurant offerings now are wonderful.
Oh,
and to
wow.
hear the music of somebody like Harry Havery downtown.
Well, thank you. What we need a trolley, but we need some more retail. And we need that really quick. Really, really quick, like yesterday, because the people are already coming in because of HGTV. There's at least 3 empty places that could be transformed into retail overnight.
Noticed those on the way here. And, we had dress stores downtown before.
Colony Shop.
Yeah.
I mean, way back. Grateful Hearts was there. They did a great business. We need some more retail.
We do.
You need a ladies' clothing shop. If we're going to be honest,
Yes.
because the guys can go over to the pub, have a drink, and the ladies can go shopping. I don't mean to stereotype, but that's what's going to happen.
Well, Colony Shop was awesome. I think everybody went there,
Yeah.
Before there were the things on the highway. But now, again, I think the focus is back downtown, and
It's
it's
time.
prime time for somebody to open a great dress store.
100%.
Lisa Burley had the Choutique downtown.
Yes,
And
that's
she had
right.
wonderful high-end shoes. Maybe it was a little early to be opening something like that, but now something like that would, I think, do well.
It would thrive. Oh, yeah. I think it would be fantastic. I'm really excited about Sebring and what's going on.
I too. And you and I have been here basically, you all your life,
Yeah.
me almost all my life, my brother almost all his life. We love our community. We support our community, and we know there's changes that are happening that we love and some changes that we maybe don't embrace as much.
Sure.
But we support our town no matter what. It's our heart and soul.
That's right. The bathrooms, I think they're still planning on bathrooms on Wall Street, kind of behind the Circle Theater. That Rotary, I think, is
Okay.
talking about putting those in. So that's going to really help to have some good brick
Awesome.
and mortar public restrooms. That's going to be a big deal. I'm real happy with the way things are going downtown right now.
The theater's very
Oh,
active.
they're doing wonderfully, and that's boy. Every day I miss that job. I loved managing that Circle Theater.
Oh, okay. The Circle Theater.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Is that what
I
you
was
were
thinking of Highlands Lakeside
Oh,
Theater.
they've crushed it all along.
Yeah.
They've never had a weak season
No.
ever since their inception. They've been strong right out of the gate, and they only get better and better and better.
Oh my gosh, Sweeney Todd is going to be amazing, and the Art League is down there.
Yes.
and there's just that little hub there that could be a trolley could go right to.
Yeah.
for
It sure
tourists.
could. And when Harder Hall gets done and they do the water shuttle back and forth, you'll have the trolley there to get people around. It's just all going to be wonderful. And there's someone else to partner with, and with the whole trolley thing is the Harder Hall folks.
Right, and Kenilworth,
And Kenilworth Lodge, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah.
and the train station.
yeah, there's
Bring
just
people downtown.
You know what? We need more than one trolley.
We got to start with one.
Yep, I know. We're gonna need several. We're gonna need several trolleys. Yeah.
You going to drive one day?
I might. Does the driver do the narration, or does there a separate narrator?
I would think the driver. Chief Detman has already said he would drive.
Yeah.
One of our city council people said she would drive.
Said she. So okay. So that kind of gives it away.
Yes, and Alan Holmes said he wanted to drive.
Oh, Alan. Oh my goodness. Yeah, he would be great.
They all wanna
I would
drive.
do it. Do you have to have a CDL or something?
No,
Really?
4 days. We already have 4 days covered.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. That would be fun. I love talking about Sebring.
I know, and you don't even have to think about it because you just know it.
Yeah,
You know
that's
the
right.
history of the buildings. You know the history of the people. And I love to remember the people that have passed that meant so much to us.
Yes.
I want to keep those people alive for
Absolutely.
the new generations too, who did not know the Billy Wagamans,
Yes.
the Joe Bensons.
Oh, yes. That's part of what the podcast is. It's remembering some of the old
Absolutely.
people, places, and things of Sebring, years past.
Our history.
Our history. It's
And our
important.
future.
That's right, and it's all tied together. Yeah, I think it's wonderful. Your dad.
My heart, did you say?
Yes. Your dad was so cool.
Thank you.
I would bring him songs that I had recorded, that I'd written and recorded, and I'd give him a cassette. And then I would go back a week later, and he would critique them. And he didn't just, oh, yeah, this is great, this is awesome, I love what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. He would say, this particular song was there, but this one, it felt like you rushed it a little bit, and you might want to consider a different key. Because you're it seemed like your voice might have been a little bit uncomfortable, so maybe try lowering it. And he would give me actual, real, loving, constructive criticism. He didn't just blow smoke. There's enough people that'll blow smoke at you, but he was always honest with me. He was always truthful with me. He was always caring and loving and wonderful towards me.
So you knew he listened, and he
listened to
really
every note.
thought about what
Absolutely,
you produced.
he did.
Well, he was very proud of you too.
Oh, thank you.
He was.
Thank you. What a kind man. And your mom was so quiet and, can I say, demure maybe. Would that be a good word for her?
Private.
Private.
Yes.
Yes.
Behind the scenes, no demure.
Okay. Okay.
She was She loved to have fun, and she was silly. But in public, she was definitely more all about business.
Yes.
Daddy was the one that was always ready with the hugs.
Oh,
you
yeah,
know,
that's right.
And everybody,
That's
they would come up to me and say, "I love the way your dad smells."
Yeah.
And he's the best hugger.
Oh, yeah.
And one lady told Daddy, or Mama, if he wasn't married to you,
I'm sure the female population of Sebring, I'm sure there were several who thought that.
we could probably delete that.
I think he'd be honored by it.
Daddy only finished third grade.
I did not know that.
He had polio when he was a child.
That I knew.
And he was one of 8 children, and basically their father deserted them, would come and go, not there very much. So he had a paper route when he was third grade. But he educated himself, and he became friends with ambassadors and janitors and politicians and people that drove the trucks.
Yes.
And he treated everybody fairly and kindly and the same. And that's how it should be.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What an amazing mom and dad.
Thank you.
This episode of The Havery Show is being brought to you by Heartland Tax and Accounting, 863-385-5020. Sebring High class of
76.
76, Peter's class.
Yes.
All right.
We're working on a class reunion. We're thinking towards it. I'm hoping that we'll have it at the Harder Hall.
Oh.
We had our senior class prom there. Yeah. And that was one of the last classes before it closed. Yeah. And I can still remember how grand that ballroom was. The columns just seemed to go up forever. So I'm hoping that the Blackmans might have that, at least that portion ready.
Wouldn't that be something?
For a class reunion for the 1976 class.
Wow.
And then July 4th, of course, would be for our bicentennial class.
Yes. Oh, that's right.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
So that's 250 years.
Yes.
And if we can we're going to have a reunion that weekend, wherever it is. But we're all on our Facebook page. We have a class page, a class of 1976 SHS class.
Yep.
And we keep in touch.
Yep.
And Pete does keep in touch too. Yep. He put a poster on there that was from our senior, what was that called? Grad night.
Grad night.
Yes.
I was there in Albemarle. We went to Hobby Lobby, and we were looking for frames and all that kind of stuff. And he would have thought that he broke into Fort Knox. He was so proud of that poster. He was so happy with that poster. He got it framed. He showed me a picture of it framed and hanging up and everything.
I can't believe he still has it.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
so cool. Peter is he's another one. He's in Albemarle. Yeah, he's been on the county commission, and he's done all that stuff. But his heart is still here.
Sure it is.
Is he invited to the class reunion?
He's on the planning committee.
Peter inherited the big stick from our mother. My mother used to carry around a big stick
She had to
stir things. There was a particular thing that she used to like to stir, and she was really good at it. And when she passed away, she handed that down to Peter, and Peter has taken the stick, and he stirs stuff up whenever.
I haven't experienced that stick.
Yeah, no, he is something else. I love Peter because he'll stand on his convictions. Whether we agree on stuff or not, it doesn't bother me one bit because I'm so proud of him. Yeah. And his courage. Straightforwardness.
And he's bright. He's a bright bulb.
Yeah, absolutely he is.
I think, of course, Shirley, I was a dear heart. I miss her tremendously.
Every day I miss her. Yeah, and Charlie, Charlie passed.
I did.
Yeah. Did you know my Havery brothers?
Mention some.
So Chris, of the 8 of us, Chris would have been the oldest.
Don't know Chris.
And then Jimmy. And then Shirley, Vinny, Peter, Charlie, Mark, and me. So you don't remember the Haverys? They were pretty much older when they moved down here. They moved down here in '66.
Vinny, Shirley, Peter, you, and Charlie.
Okay.
That's everybody I knew.
Gotcha.
Which was a handful.
That was a handful even back then.
Yeah.
Do you remember Joe Gallimore?
No.
Joe lived down the street, somewhere farther down past our house on South Commerce, and Joe told me that when they were young, when the kids would come down South Commerce, when they got to our house, they would cross the street and go past because I'm not sure which one, but one or more of the brothers would come out and charge a toll for passing in front of the house. And they were that family from New York. So
That had to be Peter.
I'm not sure which ones it was, but that's the story.
Oh, how funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Make your summer living.
Exactly. A side hustle, charging kids to go by.
We used to ride our bikes down the back ramp behind Badcock Furniture.
Oh, yeah.
Billy just about got killed on it because he was on his tricycle. And now you don't have a stop on tricycles,
No.
you know. And I got him up the top of the hill and let him go. And there was a trailer down at the bottom of the hill, and he went flying across that trailer on his tricycle.
Oh, wow. Did you guys ride your bikes off the city pier?
Literally?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, we did.
No.
We did. Yeah, back. Well, when I was a kid, and I'm sure you can imagine this, but they still had the railings, and there was a ladder where you could jump off the pier, swim over to the ladder, and climb up. But there were no railings on the edge of the pier,
Right.
and there was no roof.
Right.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
And there was a pole.
Yeah, there
on the
was a
corner
lot of dangerous stuff.
with the rope, and the guy passed away, and they took the rope down. But yeah, there was no railing, so we used to drive our bikes right off the edge of the city pier, right into Lake Jackson, and then swim the bike over and drag it up the ladder and go again and again and again. Back then, you could start at the parking lot by the library. Do you remember that? And there was a ramp that went all the way down, and you could
Right next to
ride-
Teen Town.
Exactly. Yeah, and you could go all the way down and really build up speed.
Get out there, far out into the lake.
Yeah, that's right.
That was in the days BP, before phones.
Yes, exactly.
Run through the Australian pines, jump off.
yeah. Oh yeah.
We had some good times.
Yeah, the tennis courts behind City Hall.
The tennis courts.
Yeah, and the one directly behind City Hall, not the one to the left, but the one directly behind had that observation deck
Right,
or something in the
yes.
middle, and that was always a fun place. We were playing cops and robbers, and that was like the police station or something.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that was cool. And the basketball court next door. I don't know how many.
Was that behind Nazarene Church?
It was right between the two tennis courts.
Okay. I do remember the observation deck. We all climbed up that.
Oh, yeah. The club, the card club, the ladies club, women's club behind the tennis courts, the brick building there.
Yes.
Do you remember where that originated?
Didn't it have screens instead of glass all the way around it?
That building originated as the social hall for St. Catherine's.
St. Catherine's.
Mhm. It was on the St. Catherine's. If you look at the existing church now and you're facing the church, the parking lot is to the right, and that building was to the far right, and it was the social hall. They moved it.
Really?
To my knowledge, to my recollection. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I can remember somebody in your family as an altar boy at the old St. Catherine's Catholic Church that was wood.
Yep. I've been Vinny.
Was it Vinny?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah. I think Vinny and Peter both, but Vinny I think was more. I would bet all my money on it being Vinny, but I think that Peter and maybe Charlie had a short go at it.
It was a tiny church.
It was the
And it was
beautiful little
wood.
wood building,
Yes.
shape of a cross.
Yeah. Why they took it down. Again, history.
Oh, wow, the number of buildings that we've lost.
Santa Rosa just about broke me.
Yeah. I was out of town when that came down. I didn't have to see it happen. The Nancessoy.
Yeah, the Nancessoy.
We were at Gavigan's talking today about, the building that Gavigan's is in, and I had to give my young friends, the lesson how that, before it was the barbecue, before it was Sandy's Cafe, it was the Cat House, but the Cat House was originally in the Nancessoy before it moved over there. And then, of course, the Nancessoy, it had the Cat House, but then it had the Rendezvous.
Yes, it did. I've heard of that.
Oh, but not any firsthand experience, I'm sure.
No. I wondered where all those cat figurines went.
I wondered too.
I'm sure somebody ended up with some,
I would hope so. There were thousands of them.
Thousands of nasty, dusty.
Even then, but in defense, how could you possibly keep up with cleaning that?
You couldn't, and it was definitely something to look at,
Yeah,
And we all ate there,
sure we did. Yeah, it was a staple, and the red bumper stickers.
Yes.
Remember the red bumper stickers?
Yes, I do
Everybody
now.
had those. Yes, so cool, so cool.
We're going down memory lane here.
Yeah, we are. Favorite teachers?
5th grade was Alice Munson.
Munson.
Yes.
Is that Woodlawn?
And Mrs. Brand. And I did not know for decades that Mrs. Brand was Jug Heston's sister.
Uh-huh.
And I love those two. I would mistakenly call them Mom, And Mr. Rose in 6th grade, I adored him.
Mm-hmm.
And as you went through 7th and 8th grade, those were traumatic years, when you had to dissect frogs and stuff. So I don't think I had a favorite, Mr. Purvis. I think Mrs. Bible might have been my favorite, PE.
Uh-huh. Yep.
And I had such a strong affection for Mr. Locke and for Mr. Dumbleton. I loved taking his drafting class. And Mrs. Anderson, who I think she taught me a few years. And, I loved our art teacher. And Mrs. Talbot, our typing teacher. No one types anymore, but those were all great. Mrs. Phillips, she taught us French. And Mr. Phillips, who taught us geometry.
That's right. Boy, all these faces are popping in my head as soon as you say them. Mm-hmm. Did you have Mrs. Steiner?
I didn't, but my brother
Stubby
did.
Stick Steiner?
I didn't.
She had a mouth on her.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. She would get into it with some of the girls. She would cut them down like a tree. It was great.
She didn't take anything.
Oh, she didn't take anything. No. She was a hoot.
I can picture Mr. Blanding with a paddle in his...
Oh, yes. Oh, he didn't take no.
Nope.
I had Robert Shannon in here. Mm-hmm. For the last podcast, we were talking about some of these same people who just didn't take no bull.
No.
They were very serious people when it came to what they had to do, but they had hearts of gold because they wouldn't be doing it if they didn't.
You had to.
That's right.
To put up with us.
Tough love.
Yeah. A lot of memories.
Absolutely. What about, so we're talking about some of the old buildings, but what are some of the old places that you remember that are special to you? Restaurants or?
Well, I remember Clayton's.
Clayton's.
Because there was an explosion there.
Yeah.
And my father was supposed to be down in that boiler room helping them fix the motor or whatever it was for the pool.
Really?
Yes. And Mr. Clayton died.
Yes.
And Mr. Orpert ended up in the hospital. He was down there, and Daddy was supposed to be there. But I remember Clayton's for other reasons, along the lines of my place in PJ's.
Sure, and Clayton's then became Allen's, didn't it?
Yep. And they used to have great bands there, and Candlelight used to have great bands there. We
sure did.
We had so much. I think we had the best times to go dance.
It was the golden era of music in Sebring, for sure it was. Now we're approaching that again now. We have got so many good bands,
Which is awesome.
So much local talent that we're getting to that point again.
We used to have comedy clubs here too.
Yeah, we did.
And I can't remember the name of it right off the tip of my tongue, but we had a really good comedy club here on the Circle.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'd love to have comedy again,
Well, they're doing it at 301 on Thursday nights.
No, I didn't know.
Yeah. Georgia Dawkins is the MC.
Okay.
She's a Sebring High graduate from a few years ago, and I think it's Thursday nights. I don't know the hours, but it's open mic comedy night.
I think she's in theater as well.
She may well be. Yep.
I think she's in Sweeney Todd, and I just did a story on her for the newspaper.
There you go. Small world, isn't it?
Yep.
So talking about small world, you mentioned the 1928 hurricane. John McClure was in here a few weeks ago. I was doing an interview with him. He's written a song about that called Killer Kane.
Really?
That's going to be out in the next, probably, I would say, few weeks. But it's just interesting that you go through your whole life and not talk about the Okeechobee hurricane of 1928, and then you hear it referenced by two different people from two different, totally different angles.
John and my husband are good friends. They are in a group called the Old Farts. So I have a feeling I'm going to get to hear this song.
Oh, yeah.
When they get together soon.
It's a great song.
I remember Nita Stewart, who was found in Moorhaven floating on a door that she had been tied to. Do you remember that story?
No.
As a little child. Her whole family had been washed away. And the building where 1912, the
Yes.
legacy 1912 is going to be, I'm not sure if that was the Haynes building, but the people that own that building adopted her. And she eventually became the owner of the building, but they adopted her as a little child. She was found floating after the hurricane and ended up in Sebring.
Isn't that something? Can you imagine?
No.
And you know the story about how the Seminole knew it was coming. The Seminole Indians knew. And they went around and they went from house to house and said, this is going to be bad. You need to leave. You need to leave. And most of the people just blew them off.
I did not
So the
know
Seminole Indians a bunch of them ended up here in Highlands County. And in Sebring, especially, a lot of the local homes welcomed them in and let them stay either in the home or let them set up in their camps or whatever in the yards. So a lot of the Seminole Indian people came up from Okeechobee, from that area, and they were sheltered here in Sebring.
Never heard that.
Yeah, stay right there. Don't move. Wait a minute. Do I have it? I was going to look for a book. I have a book that John referred me to. I haven't read it yet, but it's a whole book about the hurricane. It's got all those stories in it. It's remarkable. I only know the stories secondhand because I haven't read the book yet. Mm-hmm. Do you know the book Through the Groves?
No.
Oh boy. Wait.
Okay.
10 seconds.
Should I do interlude music?
Sure. Where is it? Oh, you know what? Ann Hall. Ann Hall is the author, and you can't borrow it because I already loaned it to Michael Waldron when he was doing the podcast. We were talking about it, and I loaned it to him.
Okay.
Ann Hall's mother was a teacher at Woodlawn, Mrs. Hull, and they're a Groving family. Mrs. Hull came from New York, and she was as New York as they come.
Right.
And little Ann, when she was a little girl, she had to go on the citrus route with her dad, who worked for a chemical company. It's a remarkable book, and it's got all these Sebring references in it and all these people that you know in it.
I want to read
It's
it.
a really poignant story. It's a really sad, poignant story.
Referencing the hurricane?
Nope. This
Okay.
is 60s and 70s. She would probably be about my age, I would guess. Ann Hull would be about my age, maybe a few years older. She might be 60 or something.
It'll be neat to see her perspective,
Oh yeah,
versus locals.
absolutely. Well, she was a local, and she grew up here.
Okay.
Yep, and then she moved all around. But it's a really sweet story. But the whole beginning of the book talks about Sebring stuff and Sebring people, and a lot of the teachers you're gonna recognize the names of them, and you're like, wow, it's really cool.
People that you might not remember until
Yes,
they're brought up to you again.
It's a great book. I got it on Amazon. But if you see Michael Waldron, you can say, "Hey, I want that book when you're done," and you can have it next.
Michael Waldron, I want that book.
That's right. Michael Waldron, you give her that book when she asks for it too. And if you haven't read it yet, then you don't deserve to have it, and you give it to her
my
anyway.
turn.
That's right. Pass the book along, and when you're done with it, pass it on to somebody else who would enjoy reading, a poignant story about growing up in Sebring.
John McClure.
John McClure. Yeah, he would love that book. Yeah, what a good guy.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he is.
This episode of The Havery Show is being brought to you by Heartland Tax and Accounting, 863-385-5020. You can wave a magic wand. You can go back to any age, to any era of growing up in Sebring. You can't change anything, but you can be a fly in the wall and you can watch it happen exactly the way it happened, just to relive the memory. Where would you go? What year, what era would you pick?
I had an idyllic childhood. I would give anything just to have my parents back again, and that's selfish. That doesn't have anything to do with the progress of our community. It's just would be my wish, just to have my parents back again.
I think it's fantastic, and that would be my probably second. I think my first would be to see my kids little again.
Yeah.
I miss them being little. I've got 2 grandkids now, and to see them is to see to see Rodney at that age again too, and I love it. That was magical, but being a kid here in Sebring was also magical.
It was, without all the phones,
That's
without all the
right.
technology, without all the traffic.
Yes.
We just were carefree and innocent,
Yep.
and you hung around with all the kids in the neighborhood,
Yeah.
and you found things to do that were fun.
That's right.
Yeah, and you did your chores on the weekend, and it was just a simpler time where family was number one.
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe to a certain extent that is with some families, but technology has just interfered so much,
It's ruining everything.
Yeah, and people are too busy and too focused. And, everyone has to make a living and everyone has to meet their deadlines. But
That's right.
Family is the core. And when I grew up, it was just a different time.
Yeah. It really was. Growing up next door, in this house next door, I had the Bateman girls. I had Roy and Cheryl Bateman. That was the mom and dad, and Rhonda, Carla, and Teresa were the girls, and they were my playmates. Next door, 2 doors down from them, there were the two. There was a neighborhood bully who lived there. I can't think of his name. It might have been Ralph. I can't remember. Then there was another kid named Tony, and they hung out together, and they picked on the rest of us. And then this was Wilkinson's Credit Union when I was a little kid. Now, when I was real little, it was Koza's grocery store. And then it became Wilkinson's Credit Union. And I used to hit tennis balls off the side. I don't think that he cared for that very much. We used to play baseball in the backyard of this place. So we had orange trees, and we had stuff in our yard that this was open area.
And he didn't mind?
He kind of did because... So I didn't do this because I wasn't old enough yet, but Peter and Charlie used to practice hitting, and they would use the air conditioning unit out back as the catcher. And they're all these baseball-sized, completely shut down the fins on the thing.
But nobody took credit for that, did they? When it came?
I don't think so. This place right here, this lot is where I learned how to throw a football. It's where I learned how to throw a baseball. It's where I learned how to hit. Peter had this tennis thing. There's a round weighted base with a string attached, and you whack the tennis ball and it comes back to you. And if I didn't use that, I was using his wall. So this place is full of
your
memories.
history. Yeah.
Robin's Nursery. Remember when it was down here?
Yeah.
And there was a Orange Blossom Trailer Park next to that. The Williams family, they lived, right down
one
there.
street over, the Elliots.
The Elliots, that's right. I don't remember who it was, but directly behind Fitkins, there was an orange grove. That alley used to run behind everything, and then they shut it off when they put the county building there.
Right.
But there was an orange grove. There's a white 2-story house with an orange grove, and we used to cut through that, and the guy used to shoot at us with a BB gun. So
your poor mom.
So many memories. So many.
Absolutely.
And now, I don't know, 50 years from now, 40 years from now, are the kids today going to have memories like that?
I read this thing that said, in one generation, you will be forgotten.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're like me, you don't want your parents to be forgotten.
Right.
If you want to forget me, that's fine. Yeah. But you don't want your parents to be forgotten, And so whenever I get a chance, I talk about them,
Yeah, 100%.
And I talk to people like you about our shared memories, because we do share those things together. And the newer people who have just come here, or the younger children or young adults may not appreciate what we have in our history. And maybe when we were younger, we didn't appreciate it as much either. But I think with age comes that wisdom and appreciation for, what your parents did for your life.
Yeah.
And to me, it's everything. They made my life so good.
Yeah.
And I know your mom, holy moly, she raised all you kids and everybody turned out great,
Yeah.
and she loved you, and she fed you, and she nurtured you, and she made sure you did fun things, and you did your homework, and I know that all happens now too. It's just this history of the people who have influenced our lives, whether it was our family or whether it was Joe Benson that brought a rose to everybody in the hospital every day,
Yes.
or whether it was Katie, who used to own, I think it was Ida's before Eileen. Mm-hmm. Katie Monk. She would walk with her sister from Thriftway grocery store home, and she would carry an umbrella over her sister in the heat. Katie was probably 80 at the time. Her sister was probably 90, and they'd pull a little cart behind them with their groceries. Or Louise Cameron, who would drive up to my store, and every time I'd pray that she wouldn't run over the bumper and into the store, and she was probably 80, and she'd walk into the store, "Hey, honey, I'm so glad." And she was... I don't know if you remember Louise Cameron, but her brother was Alan Altvater.
Yes.
And then Alma Devane, that used to work with us,
Yes.
Park, wrote a lot about the history of the town. And Park's brother wrote a lot about Lake Placid, Albert Devane. Just the history and the peoples from down the road, so much shared history.
Mrs. Peoples lived across the corner from our house.
Mm-hmm. And the Winells were
The
down
Winells,
there.
yes.
Wheelers.
Yeah, the Wheelers,
Yeah,
that's
yep.
right. The Spooners.
And didn't the Wheelers have the Red Barn Antiques?
Yes, they did.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the drive-in. I mean, we went to the drive-in a lot.
Yeah, the Savon.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We used to...
We didn't sneak anybody in.
I'm sure you didn't. I'm quite sure you never did that. I'm also pretty sure that me and Clark and David never parked on the road outside of the Savon after they added FM, because before you had to put the little speaker in your window.
And a mosquito coil.
And a mosquito coil.
Yes.
That's correct. Once they upgraded, they had their own little FM broadcasting, so you could tune into the radio and listen to it on your car. So when they did that, we could pull up alongside
and listen for free.
And watch the movie,
for
because you
free.
could see the screen.
Yeah.
I remember watching Death Wish 2 with Clark for parts
For
of
free.
it, because we would never sit for the whole thing. What do you want to do? Let's go see what's playing at the movie. Okay, and off we go.
Go see part of it.
And go see part of it. That was just part of cruise night.
Yep.
So here's one for you. Since you're retired,
Yes.
all you got going is your art and your real estate and trying to get a trolley downtown. You've got free time. Write the book about these people. Short stories, 1 page, just about the lady coming in, and you're afraid she's going to hit the curb, and she comes in and brightens your day. Write her story and let her name live on, even if
love
it's
that.
just a page.
I love
That's
that.
all.
I posted today on Facebook that I was thankful for all the people I had met over the 48 years that I would not have met if I hadn't had the florist. And I said I was grateful. And wouldn't it be something to remember them?
Yeah.
Peggy from the First Presbyterian Church that played the organ for so many years, Mrs. Pogany,
Yes.
who was so involved with St. Catherine's.
Yes.
Yeah.
These are all names that, if I'm being honest, many of them have skipped my memory because I haven't been reminded.
Mm-hmm.
Please write the book. I'm writing a book doing this for posterity. This is my way of doing it.
Preserving history.
Preserving history. I wish you would do that. I'll be the first one to buy one.
I think that's a lovely idea.
I do too. And it's not hard. I've self-published 2 books. It's not hard to do. And
I'll come to you for advice.
well, no, I mean, I can tell you where I got them done. I mean, that's about all I can do. But I think it would be wonderful if you did something like that. And I know for a fact it would be so well received.
I think that my generation would know most of these people.
Absolutely.
I remember Dorothy Sauls.
Yes.
Somebody that's 20 now doesn't know
No,
Dorothy Sauls. She's
no.
been gone for a long
No,
time.
but her story is important.
Yes.
And you're not going to be able to tell her whole story, but you're going to be able to give a special remembrance
Sure.
of a special person that otherwise ain't going to happen.
And they will be forgotten.
That's right. This is whether you do it or not, this is something that you can do that is absolutely in your wheelhouse.
I was a historian for the Kiettes, so it is.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go. I had pictures of you. I had Kiet's scrapbooks. I gave them all to Chad Dubose because he's like one of the local historian guys.
I wondered what happened to those because I wanted to put it on our Facebook page.
Yeah, they all got donated to me years ago. Don't ask me exactly why, but I held on to them for the longest time. And then when I was cleaning stuff up and downsizing because I thought I was moving and leaving and never coming back, I gave them to Chad. So
I did the
He
historian.
probably still has them.
Yes, I did those books for the 75 and 76.
Yep. He's got them unless he's done something else with them.
Maybe I could reach out to him.
Yep. I'm sure he'd be happy to share them. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
Ladonna, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
This was delightful.
It was. It was definitely a walk down memory lane.
It really was. Also, if you want to commission some artwork, here's the number. Say it again.
214-1055.
It'll be on your screen. If you want to help with the trolley and you want to advertise your business, or you just want to make a donation because you think that having the trolley in downtown Sebring is a great idea, call the same number. Mm-hmm. And if you want to, we're going to start a crowdfund right now. If you want to help defray the costs of publishing her book, call the same number right now. Right? Same number?
Certainly.
Okay. All right. We're gonna get this book done. I love you. Thank you so much for coming.
I love you too. Thank you, Harry.
It's great to see you. We're out.
All right.
Just like that. The Havery Show has been brought to you by Heartland Tax and Accounting, 863-385-5020.
Glory to the name, His name, the name of Jesus.